Hi! This is another version of the Twin Fusion Show. My name is Christy Peters, and this is my twin sister,
Hi, I'm Kathy.
Kathy. And today we're going to be talking about what just happened yesterday was the Women's March. It happened here in Los Angeles. Did they do it in Phoenix, Kathy?
I'm not aware of that. Did
Okay.
they? They did.
They had a big one in Los Angeles. There were quite a few people there. I don't remember the numbers, but so we just wanted to talk a little bit about male and female roles in culture and feminine energy and versus masculine energy and things like that. They'll help clarify what's going on here with these women's movements and some of the resistance against Trump. First thing I want to do is I want to bring up the website for the women's movement, the Women's March, and we're going to talk a little bit about their mission statement and ideology. So it says here, our mission: we stand together in solidarity for the protection of our rights, our safety, our health, and our families, recognizing that our vibrant and diverse communities are the strength of our country. In the spirit of democracy and honoring and champions of human rights, dignity, and justice who have come before us, we join in diversity, remember that word, to show our presence in numbers too great to ignore. We stand together recognizing that defending the most marginalized among us is defending all of us. Okay, I'm just going to say that part. One thing that these women, if you talk to them or listen to any of them who spoke at the rally, they talked about diversity and being champions of diversity. And one thing that we know is that the progressive liberal movement, the only diversity they allow or tolerate are those who are diverse enough to agree with them 100% on 100% of the issues.
Right.
I saw on Fox and Friends yesterday a woman who was a feminist, probably a lesbian, who was pro-life. She didn't say anything about being a Christian, and she didn't say she was a pro-life because for religious beliefs, she was pro-life because she had her son when she was 16 years old. And she signed up to be part of this march and be, kind of an aggressive voice in the march. And what happened was they found out that she was pro-life, and they completely banned her from the schedule. They kicked her off of Facebook. They kicked her off of everything. And she ended up
How's that for embracing diversity?
Yeah, that's how they embrace diversity.
How they embrace diversity.
Yeah, you have to completely agree with everything they think and everything they believe.
You gotta roll out their agenda word for word, or you're a bigot, you're hateful, you're racist, you're a homophobe. I mean, that's what it is. If you don't absolutely abide by their agenda, that's what you are.
Okay, I'm going to show this mission statement again. So if we look at this mission statement again, we see they say, we stand together in solidarity for the protection of our rights, safety, health of our families, recognizing that our vibrant, diverse communities are the strength of our country. I don't see that that's something that President Trump would disagree with at all, or anybody in his cabinet. And there's so much anti-Trump big hatred during the march. They talk about being peaceful and being kind and being diverse, but there's just a lot of hatred towards people that and hate speech towards people that don't agree 100% with their agenda. But
and also too, it had everything that a woman would agree with. It had the whole female psyche laid out. Their whole agenda was the female part of the equation. So, you have love, peace, you have, furthering of, love and acceptance and nurture and things like that, which is the woman's nature. So we don't even need to celebrate that, or that's just who we are as women. That's our part.
It's the feminine energy.
They have an identity issue, identity crisis, that they don't know who they are as a woman or what a woman brings to the table. As far as a relationship or on the earth, they have to pronounce it and announce it and proclaim it and march for it, because the gender identity and the whole men-female balance has been so off kilter that they don't even know who they're supposed to be. So once they get the agenda of what a woman's heart is. That's what this really the whole parade was, just what a woman's heart is. Kind of putting out what women want for the earth. And of course, we all want that as women, and that's what we would focus. But then but then you also have the male part that they're not focusing on. And Christy, you can probably just you can.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about that. Okay, so feminine energy is unifying, connective, resting and receiving, embracing and nurturing. That's female energy. Every single woman on this planet has that innately within them, and that is a gift that we give to this planet. Okay, then there's the masculine energy. It's the protector, the provider. The protector and the provider give, what men do is give women, in that protector provider role, give women a safety net in order to be who they are. To be resting, to be receiving, to be nurturing, to be kind, to be enveloping and embracing. Okay? So so without the male energy, women have to be that male. They have to be the protector, the provider, and then all that feminine energy is lost or is compromised to be able, subverted to do the male role. So one of the reasons they don't like Trump is because he exudes that male energy that every country needs to be safe, to be prosperous, to be secure. That that masculine energy, so that the women can be nurturing and bring unity, bring diversity together and stuff like that. Now I'm being stereotypical of male and female energy because we all know there are men and women with different energy types, and there's some women with that action energy, which is type 3 energy, and there's men with more nurturing and communicative and connective energy. But yeah, just like you said, these women are marching for something they already have. All they have to do is just give it out. Just be a woman. Give that out. That's who we are. We were made that way.
This culture has
you don't have to march for it.
This culture has switched poles so much and has just confused gender roles and gender identity, which was God-given, was God made to have the right balance between men and women. And then, and these women don't even know that that's who they are, and that's just, they just are that.
Just be, girls. Just be, ladies.
But they still want the men to be all that too, and it's like, okay, you can be nurturing and loving or have a community if you didn't have soldiers fighting for your safety, police fighting for the safety of your streets, good governance, by men and women, but largely, a male figurehead, with the male energy collective for protection, just like the male lion. I mean, the lionesses are the best hunters, but they still can't do the role of protecting the pride. The male has to do that, the big male, and he has to be a big badass male to be able to protect that pride. So the women could sit around and we gotta do all cooking, sewing, cleaning, blah, 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 blah. But, the guy is protecting your ass, and you do this freely in a safe environment. So,
okay. Yeah. Well,
let's energy types.
Let's talk a little about what the world looks like when there's just only female energy, and then what the world would look like if there was only just male energy. Okay, I want you to talk a little bit about, you raised 3 kids, your oldest is a son, he's a highly intelligent, very dominant person, and you tell me what your role was like and what John's role, your husband's role was like, and how that balanced this child and rearing this strong-willed, intelligent child.
Yes, my son Ben is a very great kid. He's a wonderful young man, but he is strong-willed. He's a Leo. He's firstborn. He would have dominated his sisters and completely tried to dominate me, just because he's a strong-willed, type 1 or type A male. But my husband, who wasn't going to put up with him doing his own program, put his foot in his behind on occasion to straighten him up and say, listen, you're not the boss. You listen to your mother. You don't abuse your sisters. You don't dominate and control your sisters. You got, we trained him to be a good citizen. But if he would have gone off onto his type A male, and we would have just let him be Mr. I know everything. I'm the, whatever. Firstborn, like I said, he's a good kid. He's not this awful kid. But his natural masculine energy, and being a Leo, and being a firstborn, and being a male, with that male energy, he would, if my husband wouldn't have been there to put his foot in his rear end, then he could have gone off, and then this would have just been this. He would have been a tyrant, and would have had a tyrannical rule on the earth. And Christy, talk about the Noir guy.
Okay. Well, the thing is, Kathy was a very nurturing mother. I mean, she's type 3 energies, which is kind of masculine energy, and we had 5 older brothers, so we kind of grew up with being socialized by boys. So Kathy, even though she does have, a little bit of masculine energy and very action oriented, she was still in the relationship with the children very, very nurturing, very much a doting mother. And without John's strong disciplinary action, the kids would have run the entire household. Not that Kathy wasn't a disciplinarian, but that she always erred in the female way towards nurture, towards loving kindness and mercy.
Right. And my kids are all very smart. They're all very, very opinionated, and they would have, they could have just, been some very difficult children and people that you really don't want to, live next door to.
Right.
Had it not been for my husband.
Yeah.
Because, mommy wants to dote and be nurturing and,
right.
all that.
Right.
So we're just saying, you need that masculine energy in the home. You need it on the earth. But
in the country, really in the country.
Male, Christy, talk about the Noir guy. I mean, if that was
okay. So men without women. This is what men without women look like is the typical film noir character. Okay, he's completely pessimistic about the world. All the women in his life are the femme fatale. He's suspicious of them. They're just going to take his heart, take his money, and leave him at the end of the day with a broken heart and no nurture and no love and no whatever. Because in the man's world, it's all about war. It's all about, there's no nurture. There's no connectiveness. There's no, it's a depressing, dark, man versus nature, man versus animal, man versus man kind of a world with no hope, no love, no nurture, and no connectedness. So just watch any film noir movie and you'll find out what a man's world would be like without the nurture and loving energy of women. Okay, so another thing we were going to talk about was Milo Yiannopoulos, he's a gay man who's talking about...
Hang on, I just went to see Joshua.
Okay, this is Kathy's grandson, Joshua.
Joshua.
Lots of masculine energy there.
Right, yeah, lots of energy.
And everybody's favorite. It's her first, Kathy's first grandchild.
He's definitely masculine energy right there.
Yeah.
All boy.
Okay. All right. So we have to get back on track, and so another thing we were talking about was, we were going to talk about Milo, and he's a gay man who's been talking about feminism, and talking against feminism, and talking against kind of the feminists kind of are misogynists themselves. I mean, they talk about all this feminine energy, but then they want to walk in this masculine energy in their lives. They want to be the protector, the provider, on their own. Blah blah blah. We don't need men. We don't need anybody else. We're solitary and singular and self-sufficient, I guess we would say.
But then also, on the other hand, whiny and needy and
victimized,
and that's one thing Milo does. He really talks about the faux victimization and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and he debunks
the need for attention, the need to be persecuted, whatever. They need to be this martyr as a woman or whatever, or how poorly untreated, even though they can't push themselves away from the table. They eat anything in sight, but then they wonder why they're not attractive, and it's just you know, it's so goofy. It's just not even. I mean, people with a regular mind don't even think like that. You know, it's very very twisted. But they were taught like that, and they were taught to be entitled, and they're going for it. So Milo is right about that. But then you also have the Milo side where he is like, you know, like the 9-year-old boy who, you know, that never grew up, never girls are yuck, you know, and
It's basically the psychosexual mentality of all gay men. They basically are stunted at 9 years old, where it's a boy's world, like you said. Girls are yucky. The only purpose for women is their mother, who, you know, changes their nappy every once in a while and feeds and clothes them, right? So,
right.
so yeah, Milo talking against feminism is a little bit. I wish he was a little more self-actualized before he went on the road and really went after feminists. I like how he goes after you know, the Democratic, getting people off the Democratic plantation and things like that. But which feminism is a big part of that, which is true. But it would be nice if he was a little more self-actualized, because he's so he comes off very judgmental, and he's got that gay misogyny, and yeah, and he's got that gay misogyny, and that Mediterranean sub-Saharan male kind of misogyny, kind of patriarchal misogyny.
Yeah,
But I do like him, but he just needs to work out his own misogyny before he's going to talk about the feminist misogyny against women. You know, really, honestly, I think personally, but. I know you agree, but
you're right.
Anyway, so you know, so these feminists were really, really railing against Donald Trump, and there was a lot of hate, especially towards him. And I know the reaction after he got inaugurated, they had it the day after, and that was, you know, strategic for them. But so what do you think about that? About like their attitude towards Donald Trump, and you know, Donald.
I think it's predictable. I mean, so predictable. I mean, the one thing about liberals is they don't do research. So they get caught up in emotion. They do what they're told. They say what they're told to say. They believe what they're told to believe. They're riled up and caught up in their emotions. They're not logical. They don't do research. They don't really know what's going on. They just listen to they just hang out with people that only think like them, and then they listen to the media who only, you know, thinks like them, and they don't really have any diversity of thought, diversity of friends. So they, you know, they all enclave around. I mean, I'm saying conservatives do that too, but these social justice warriors and these liberals, they're not critical thinkers. They're emotional. You know, they're caught up in all the Facebook stuff that Zuckerberg's putting out there for the, you know, the globalists and the anti-Trump rhetoric, and they just believe it all. Like I said, they do what they're told. They like who they're told to like. They hate who they're told to hate. They like the media they're told to like. They hate the media they're told to hate. Mm-hmm. They do what they're told. They follow the rules. They follow the politically correct rules to a T. They police each other with the groupthink and the newspeak.
Yeah, there's a lot of shame if you're not PC, boy. They'll tell you go into the shame pool in a second if you're not exactly.
One thing the globalists have done and the enemy has done is really got them to police each other, which, you know, so they're just brilliant at that. I mean, the enemy just turns on the tape, and it just keeps playing, and they just keep regurgitating it and keep saying the same old thing over and over again. And to each other, to the world, whatever, but they don't think critically. They don't do research.
Right.
They just
One thing I was thinking.
Emotional,
right.
Like
okay.
No logical thinking.
Okay, Kathy. Right. Gotcha. Okay. So one thing I want to talk about was Trump. He's going back to the masculine feminine energy. Trump is the masculine energy. And this country is basically, the men have been effeminized and emasculated.
Not as bad as Europe.
Not as bad as Europe, but they have here. And I think the one thing that the feminists are scared of is that they're losing their their hold on that, you know, putting men down, really, effeminizing men and emasculating men. And one thing that Trump won't have it. He's a manly man, and he's very masculine, and
he doesn't care what they think.
He doesn't care what they think, but he's also, Trump's the kind of man we want, because they say he doesn't like women, yet he always marries these strong, opinionated European women, Germanic women. His daughter is one of his top advisors on his cabinet. He has 46% of his business executives are women, and we're talking about the construction industry. This is unheard of. This man trusts women. He delegates to women, and these feminists are yelling and screaming at him how much he hates women just because he yelled at Rosie O'Donnell. And
he's a moron, by the way.
Yeah. So it's just that they don't have the facts. They don't have the facts.
Well, they don't listen to what Rosie said about him.
Right.
They just give her a bye.
Yeah.
She just gets to be mean and ugly and nasty, and then he doesn't get to defend himself.
Right. Right.
I mean, he really shouldn't give her the time of day, but he does it in a funny way.
Yeah. But Kathy, I want you to talk about. We were talking about, how the emasculation of men, and we kind of were talking about the base of where that came from the Northern European roots, because the established American culture that came from the Northern Europeans. So that's really where the base of the culture came from. I mean, we have a lot of ethnic diversity.
There's an interesting story. There's a fellow, his name's Steve Quayle. He wrote a book. He wrote several books, but really very cool books too. But one of them was about giants, and he was talking about how the Roman legionnaires, when they were fighting for Caesar, when they were fighting sort of the German giants, because a lot of the Ostrogoths and Visigoths and stuff were Germanic. They were giants. I mean, they were actually large, very large. And the culture, of these cultures, it was very pagan cultures. But if the women and children would be right up behind the battle lines when the men were fighting, so they would all come together to the battles. But if the men ran in fear, and if they fled the battle and ran back to the women, not only would the women shame them, the woman would kill their husband for being a coward.
Yeah.
Okay, we grew up in a German-Dutch family from both sides, and it's like the women emasculated the men. It was just that's what they did, and I know in my mother's generation, we came from a very German culture in northern Indiana. I mean, it was all settled by mostly Germans. So all of that history with just those behaviors just continued down the line. We've got all that Germanic tradition. You've got all the behaviors between men and women, and just that harshness. The women, emasculating the men perpetually, and it's kind of a Northern European Germanic culture thing. The Germans went over to England. A lot of this country was settled by the English, and I mean it's a melting pot. But then you've got worse scenarios from the Mediterranean cultures where the women are second-class citizens, and or in the Asian cultures and the Arab cultures where women are second-class citizens. So, I mean that's the opposite.
It's all bad. It's all bad.
It's all bad.
Either way.
I'm just saying, America was settled so much dominantly by Northern Europeans, and so there was a culture of shaming the male. And it just, it bled through in our culture, it bled through in our art and literature, and
the feminists have really capitalized on that. And since Donald Trump doesn't really play into that, there's not, they're losing their power that way. They're sort of, how women in every culture have kind of subversive power. Even like in China, you watch the Joy Luck Club and movies like that, where the Chinese women were subversive. The husbands were dominant and they were the rulers, but the women, by subversion and coercion and seduction and whatever, ruled, kind of under the table. And I think in a lot of patriarchal cultures it's that way. The women figure out how to rule.
I do want to make a point. The Roman legionnaires who saw this behavior of these Germanic women were horrified.
Oh, yeah.
They could not believe the hardness of women. They had never seen women hard like that would murder their own husbands.
Yeah, they were aghast.
They ran like a coward from the battle lines. I mean, they were, and then they would kill themselves and their children.
Yeah.
So it was like, these were just like, they're demonic cultures anyway, but I'm just saying, and I'm saying that was our bloodlines. but had to break a lot of stuff off. But but I'm just saying. But so I'm just saying, these Roman legionnaires were horrified when they saw that the hardness of these women. That they would do that. They were shocked. And these were hardened soldiers.
Right.
So we have to say that to say that was brought over here to this country by the English and the Germans and the people that settled here initially, that were Northern European, that came from those Germanic giant cultures.
Yeah. So what I want to do is just I want to pray now. We agree with what these women are standing for. If they really were standing for what their mission statement says, when it's actually played out, they're not as diverse as they think they are, and they're not really championing the weak, because they're performing abortions, which are on the most helpless. So, they're very hypocrite. It's a Hippocratic oath, I guess.
It is. I mean, you talk about unborn babies being the most marginalized and powerless of all of our community, and they're just completely being brutalized. And these people are just saying that it's okay and that yes, this is good, and buying the whole lie about a woman's body and a woman's right to choose, which was brought up by a man who was a marketer for Planned Parenthood, and he's since confessed that he brought up that line because they were losing power in the early 70s, and they brought it up so they could get pursue Roe v. Wade and all of that. So that he was a marketer that they hired to bring out that woman's right to choose line, which is served them famously. Yeah. But it's disingenuous.
Yeah. So we champion, the female energy, but we champion the masculine energy too, and the balance in this country. And I think Trump is such a good balance because of how he promotes women in his companies, and how he respects women, and he puts them on his advisory, and his top aide and campaign manager was a woman, the first one ever. These women completely don't even see the obvious. But this is how this culture is changing. This is how the American culture is changing, and they don't like it. They're losing their subversive control, I guess you would say. So we do champion female energy. We champion male energy, but we also champion male energy. That good male energy coming back in the way Trump does, where he respects women, but also is that provider and protector. So we bless that. And we bless that this is what America is becoming again, and this is what the balance. We're going to be one of the most balanced cultures on the planet, and So, do you want to pray first, Kathy?
Sure. Lord, we just thank you that you are a good God, and that you are both masculine and feminine in you, and that you created us both as necessary roles, not the same, but different sides of the coin, but together we're a unified coin, and we can't have one without the other, and then you indeed created it that way. It's a beautiful, perfect thing, and not all humans get it right, but it's just, and we've been taught adverse to that, and Christy and I, like I said, we were raised by wolves. We had 5 older brothers, but still that nurture, that our basic human female nurture and what we want and desire for the earth and for our lives came out, and we thank you for that, Lord. We thank you that even socialization, it's still the basic nature of women and men are said, and it's not it's not I was born this way. And I think some people were born maybe with gender identity issues, obviously, because there was some bloodline stuff that was passed down that needed to be broken off. But we thank you, Lord, you're taking care of all of that. You take care of all the gender roles. You created them perfectly, and not that one would dominate the other. And we know in cultures that if the woman dominates, the children are the husband's put down, and the children are angry. If the male dominates, the woman's put down, and the children are angry and don't raise up healthy. So we need a balance, and we thank you for that, Lord, that you have created that balance, and as long as people stay under you and stay under your teaching, that that perfect balance will be there, and we can raise healthy kids and raise healthy communities, and have your kingdom model on the earth. And we thank you for that, Lord, that you did create it. And we thank you for all this crazy stuff that they've been teaching, all these ways they've been trying to push gender identity issues and make kids transgender or make them think they need to be bisexual or whatever. And all of this weird gender identity stuff, Lord, that they've been pushing and pushing and pushing, especially the last 2 or 3 decades.
Yes,
Lord, we thank you that that's coming to an end, and you're going to have the right order of things.
Yes,
and Lord, I thank you for the kids that do have that gender identity issues. Lord, you are the Father who can heal their hearts and make them, whole again. And
Yes,
we thank
Lord.
you for that. So we just thank you, Lord, for your perfect order. And we thank you that Donald Trump is the strong male, and that the strong women are going to come together and be unified and make this a great country.
Yes,
and we
Lord.
thank you for that. And that we're going to work together, not separately, not, angrily, not, pointing fingers and saying he's bad, there's bad because you're a man, you're bad because you're a woman, or you think like that, and, we don't like guns, and, but we want to sing Kumbaya and whatever. Lord, we thank you that you can bring the Kumbaya crowd and the gun-toting crowd together in perfect harmony.
Yes,
and
Lord.
we thank you for that. And we just bless that in Jesus' name.
All right. Great. Yeah, I think you covered it. I don't have to pray. So, Lord, but I do thank you, Lord, that we're gonna get this right in this country, and that we're gonna export it, Lord. It's gonna be exported. This balance of power between men and women,
Yes,
and mutual respect, and so we bless that. And so that's it for today. That's our show. We thank you for being with us, and we hope you have a really good week. We will see you next week, and we'll talk about something that's happening next week.
All
So we
right.
bless you, and we thank you for joining us, and you guys have a great week in the Lord. All right.
See you next time.
Good night.
Bye-bye.